"You can't just marry me. My sisters insist you take them too." The wind howled across the endless dunes of Vorin, a desert planet baked under two suns. Dust swirled in thick clouds, stinging the eyes of anyone foolish enough to wander too far from shelter. Jace trudged through it all, his boots crunching on the cracked ground, his long coat flapping like a tattered flag. A metallic staff rested across his back, its surface scratched and worn, yet it gleamed faintly when the suns hit it just right. He was a human, a rare sight this far from Earth's colonies, and he liked it that way, alone, free, answering to no one. Vorin wasn't a welcoming place. Its people, tall and slender with skin like polished copper, lived in scattered tribes. They guarded the planet's treasure, shimmering crystals buried deep in the sands, capable of powering entire starships. Jace had heard the stories, how off-world corporations fought to claim those crystals, how the natives fought back. He didn't care much for politics or greed. He was here for a job, something simple to keep him moving. But trouble had a way of finding him. In the distance, a settlement emerged from the haze. Low, dome-shaped huts carved from sandstone, bustling with life. Jace adjusted his hood and stepped into the chaos of the market. Merchants shouted, offering glowing fruits and woven cloths. Strange creatures squawked from cages, their feathers glinting like metal. He kept his head down, weaving through the crowd, until a sharp cry cut through the noise. "Get back!" A woman's voice yelled, fierce and commanding. Jace paused, glancing toward the sound. A tall figure with copper skin and silver hair darted through the market, her movements quick and graceful. She wore a tight suit of dark fabric, torn at the side where a dark orange liquid, her blood, seeped out. Behind her, 4 armored figures pursued, their suits clanking with every step. Their chest plates bore a sharp red star emblem. Stelcorp, the galaxy's hungriest mining outfit. Jace watched as the woman ducked behind a stall, knocking over a stack of crates to slow her hunters. The armored men didn't flinch, shoving through the mess with cold precision. She was good, but they were better, closing in fast. The crowd scattered, leaving her cornered near a wall of stacked barrels. One of the pursuers raised a sleek energy rifle, its barrel humming with power. "End of the line, Lyra," the man growled through his helmet. "Stelcorp owns this planet now." Jace's fingers twitched toward his staff. He didn't like getting involved, but something about her defiance, the way she stood tall despite the odds, stirred him. Before he could think twice, he stepped forward, planting himself between the woman and her attackers. The rifle swung toward him. "Move, human," the leader snapped. "This doesn't concern you." "Funny," Jace said, his voice calm but edged with steel. "I was about to say the same to you." He tilted his head toward the woman. "She doesn't look like she's ready to give up. Maybe you should walk away." The armored men laughed, harsh and hollow through their helmets. 1 against 4. "You're either brave or stupid." "Bit of both," Jace replied, a faint grin tugging at his lips. He slid the staff from his back, gripping it with both hands. It looked simple, almost crude, but the air around it seemed to hum faintly, like a storm brewing. The leader lunged, swinging a crackling energy baton. Jace moved faster, sidestepping and slamming the staff into the man's armored chest. A sharp pulse of light flared from the impact, and the soldier flew back, crashing into a stall. The others hesitated, then charged together, weapons blazing. Jace spun the staff, deflecting energy bolts with impossible precision. Each swing was deliberate, guided by instinct honed through years of survival. He ducked under a blade, drove the staff into another soldier's knee, and sent him sprawling. The third fired point-blank, but Jace twisted aside, letting the bolt scorch the sand. With a flick of his wrist, the staff sliced through the rifle, and the man's arm, clean as a whisper. The last soldier froze, then bolted, disappearing into the dust. Breathing steady, Jace turned to the woman. She stared at him, her green eyes wide with shock. And something else. Hope, maybe. Up close, her silver hair framed a sharp, striking face, and her wound glistened in the sunlight. She straightened, wincing but proud. "You're not from here," she said, her voice steady despite the pain. "Who are you?" "Jace," he answered simply, wiping the staff on his coat. "Just passing through." "I'm Lyra," she said, stepping closer. "First daughter of Voron's ruling tribe. Those men, they're Stelcorp. They want our crystals, our home. I need your help." Jace shrugged. "I don't do favors, lady. Saved you because it felt right. That's all." Lyra's eyes narrowed, then softened. "Then marry me." He blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "Marry me," she repeated, firm as stone. "Our laws say a protector must join the family. You're strong, stronger than anyone I've seen. Marry me, and you'll have our resources, our gratitude. Protect us, and we'll give you a purpose." Jace laughed, short and dry. "You don't even know me. I'm not the marrying type." "Then you'll marry us all," she said, her gaze unwavering. "Our law demands it. If you take one sister, you take all three. Me, Kessa, and Vin. It's the only way." He stared at her, the wind whipping between them. 3 sisters. This was insane. Yet her desperation, her fire, tugged at something deep inside him. A spark of curiosity he couldn't shake. He'd spent years drifting, surviving. Maybe this was a chance to do more. "I'll think about it," he said finally, slinging the staff over his shoulder. "But I'm not promising anything. For now, let's get you out of here before more of them show up." Lyra nodded, a faint smile breaking through her pain. "Follow me, Jace. You've just stepped into something bigger than you know." As they slipped into the shadows of the settlement, the suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the dunes. Jace couldn't shake the feeling that his wandering days were about to end, whether he liked it or not. The sun sank below the horizon, painting Voron's dunes in shades of orange and purple. Jace followed Lyra through the winding streets of the settlement, his staff tapping lightly against his back. The air grew cooler, but the tension between them simmered. Marriage to one alien princess, let alone 3. It was the craziest thing he'd ever heard. Yet Lyra moved with purpose, her silver hair catching the last light, and Jace couldn't deny the pull of her resolve. He'd saved her once, but now she was dragging him into something deeper. They reached a tall sandstone tower at the settlement's edge, its walls etched with swirling patterns. Lyra pressed her hand against a hidden panel, and a door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the air was cool and dim, lit by floating orbs that pulsed like tiny stars. 2 figures waited, their copper skin gleaming faintly in the glow. The first was a woman with short, wild red hair and eyes like burning coals. She stood with a warrior's stance, arms crossed, a curved blade strapped to her hip. Her black armor clinked as she stepped forward, sizing Jace up like a predator eyeing prey. The second woman was different. Long black hair flowed down her back, and her deep violet eyes sparkled with quiet cunning. She wore a shimmering robe that shifted colors, and her smile was sharp, like she knew secrets Jace couldn't guess. "Jace, meet my sisters," Lyra said, her voice steady but tired. "Kessa, our fighter, and Vin, our thinker." Kessa snorted, her gaze locked on Jace. "So this is the human who saved you. Doesn't look like much." "Looks can fool you," Vine said, her voice smooth as water. She tilted her head, studying Jace's staff. "That's no ordinary stick, is it?" Jace tightened his grip on the staff, saying nothing. He wasn't here to impress them, but their stares made him itch. Lyra sank onto a cushioned bench, wincing as she touched her wound. He took down 4 Stelcorp soldiers in seconds. "He's more than he seems." "Prove it," Kessa said, stepping closer. She drew her blade, its edge glowing faintly. "Fight me. I want to see what you've got." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Not in the mood for games." It's not a game, Kessa snapped. If you're joining us, I need to know you won't break. Before Jace could argue, a low rumble shook the tower. Dust trickled from the ceiling, and the orbs flickered. Vine's eyes narrowed. They're back. Stelcorp doesn't waste time. Lyra stood, grimacing. They tracked me. We need to move. Jace heard it then, boots pounding outside, the whine of energy weapons charging. He sighed, slinging the staff into his hands. Guess we're skipping introductions. The door exploded inward, showering the room with debris. 6 Stelcorp soldiers stormed in, their red-starred armor glinting. Kessa charged without hesitation, her blade slicing through the air. She caught one soldier's arm, sending him crashing into the wall. Vine slipped behind a table, her fingers dancing over a small device that hummed to life, a shield generator, flickering into place around her. Jace didn't rush. He watched, waiting for the right moment. 2 soldiers aimed at Lyra, who ducked behind a pillar. The third lunged at him, swinging a crackling baton. Jace sidestepped, letting the staff hum in his grip. With a flick, he struck. The metal glowed briefly, and the baton shattered, along with the soldier's helmet. The man crumpled, out cold. Nice trick, Kessa called, dodging a blast. Got more? Plenty, Jace muttered. He spun the staff, deflecting a volley of energy bolts. The soldiers were fast, their suits tough, but Jace saw patterns, weak spots where the armor joined. He darted forward, slamming the staff into one's knee joint. A spark flared, and the suit locked up, toppling the soldier like a statue. Outside, engines roared. Through the shattered door, Jace glimpsed a hulking machine, a Stelcorp drone, its cannon swiveling toward the tower. We've got bigger problems, he shouted. Vin peeked from her shield. That's a Mark 7. Tough shell, weak core. We need to hit it from inside. Inside? Lyra asked, incredulous. How? Jace grinned, an idea sparking. Leave that to me. He grabbed a coil of rope from a nearby crate, looping it around his staff. Kessa, distracted. Vine, cover me. Lyra, stay low. Kessa smirked. Finally, some fun. She bolted outside, weaving through blasts as the drone fired. Vine adjusted her device, projecting a faint shield around Jace. He sprinted into the open, the rope trailing behind him. The drone loomed, its cannons blazing. Jace dodged, feeling the heat of near misses. He swung the staff, hooking the rope around a leg joint. With a yank, he climbed, the staff pulsing as he jammed it into a seam. Light flared, and the metal split, exposing wires. He tore at them, sparks flying, until the drone shuddered and collapsed. Breathing hard, Jace slid to the ground. The sisters emerged, staring at the wreckage. Kessa sheathed her blade, nodding grudgingly. Not bad, human. Vin approached, her eyes on the staff. That's no tool. It's alive, isn't it? Jace hesitated, then nodded. Calls itself Thorn. Been with me a long time. Lyra stepped forward, her wound bandaged now. You're incredible, Jace. Stelcorp wants our crystals. They power everything out there. Without them, Vorin falls. We need you. Need me, or need a husband? Jace asked, half joking. All of us, Lyra said firmly. It's our law. 1 protector, 3 sisters. You can't just take me. Kessa crossed her arms. I don't like it either, but she's right. You're good, maybe good enough. Vine smiled faintly. Think of it as a challenge. 3 minds, 1 goal. Can you handle us? Jace looked between them. Lyra's fire, Kessa's strength, Vine's sharpness. He'd spent years running from ties, but this was different. Thorn hummed against his back, eager for more. Maybe it was time to stop drifting. I'll fight with you, he said at last. Marriage? We'll see. Lyra's smile was small but real. Good enough. For now. As the dust settled, distant lights flickered on the horizon. More Stelcorp forces closing in. Jace tightened his grip on Thorn. Whatever came next, he'd face it his way. The night sky over Vorin glittered with stars, but the horizon glowed with an unnatural light. Stelcorp's forces, regrouping for a bigger strike. Jace stood atop the sandstone tower, the wind tugging at his coat. Thorn, his strange metallic staff, rested in his hands, its faint hum a steady pulse against his fingers. Below, Lyra, Kessa, and Vin huddled around a flickering hologram map, their copper skin catching the glow. The sisters were different as night and day, yet their voices overlapped in sharp, urgent tones. "We can't wait," Kessa said, slamming a fist on the table. "They'll hit the crystal mines next. If they take those, we're finished." Vine traced a line on the map, her violet eyes calm but focused. "The main mine's here, 3 miles west. Stelcorp's got a base nearby. Guards, drones, the works. We need a plan." Lyra looked up at Jace, her green eyes steady. "You've seen what they can do. What's your move?" Jace stepped down, the staff tapping the floor. "They want the crystals, so we hit them first. Get inside their base, shut it down. Keep them off balance." Kessa smirked. "Bold. I like it. But those suits of theirs, they're tough." "Tough's not unbeatable," Jace said, his mind already racing. Thorn pulsed, eager, and he felt its silent nudge. "Trust me. We move fast. Use what we've got. You in?" The sisters exchanged glances, then nodded. Lyra grabbed a pack of supplies. Kessa checked her blade, and Vine tucked her shield device into her robe. They slipped out into the desert, the dunes stretching endlessly under the starlight. Jace led, his steps sure despite the shifting sand. He'd survived worse than this. Worlds torn apart, odds stacked high. Vorin was just another challenge. The Stelcorp base loomed ahead, a squat fortress of steel and blinking lights. Drones buzzed overhead, their sensors sweeping the dark. Kessa crouched beside Jace, her breath sharp. Guards at the gate. 2 drones. How do we get past? Jace scanned the scene, then pointed to a cluster of barrels near the wall. "Fuel. If we blow those, it'll draw them out." "Vine, can your shield hide us?" She nodded. "For a minute, maybe 2. Make it quick." He handed Kessa a small flint from his pack. "Light it up." She grinned, darting forward as Vin activated the shield, a faint shimmer cloaking them. Kessa struck the flint, sparking a flame, and tossed it into the barrels. The explosion roared, orange fire lighting the night. Guards shouted, drones whirred, and chaos erupted. "Now," Jace whispered. They slipped through the gap, Thorn guiding his steps like a second sense. Inside, the base hummed with machinery, conveyors hauling raw crystals, glowing blue and sharp-edged. Workers in Stelcorp uniforms scrambled, unaware of the intruders. Vin's eyes widened. These crystals, they power half the galaxy. Ships, weapons, cities. No wonder they're desperate. Lyra's jaw tightened. Our mother built our tribe on them. They're ours. Not if they get them first, Jace said. He spotted a control room above, its windows overlooking the floor. Up there, we cut their power. They're blind. They climbed a narrow stair, dodging patrols. At the top, a locked door blocked their path. Vine pulled a thin tool from her robe, working the lock, but it buzzed angrily. "It's coded. I need time." "No time," Jace said. He raised Thorn, and the staff glowed faintly. With a swift jab, it sliced through the metal, the door falling apart like paper. Kessa whistled low. "What is that thing?" "Old friend," Jace muttered, stepping inside. Consoles blinked with data, screens showing the mines. He yanked wires, smashed panels. Crude, but effective. Lights flickered, machines groaned, and alarms blared. Guards burst in, weapons raised. Kessa met them head-on, her blade flashing. Lyra ducked, grabbing a fallen rifle to fire back. Vine shielded herself, directing Jace to a central terminal. That's the core. Shut it down. Jace plunged Thorn into the machine. Energy surged, sparking wildly, and the staff drank it in, glowing brighter. The base shuddered, power dying in a wave. Outside, drones crashed, and shouts filled the air. As they fought their way out, Vine grabbed Jace's arm. "You're not just a drifter, are you? That staff, it's ancient. Where'd you get it?" Jace hesitated, the memory hitting hard. A ruined colony, ash and smoke, a boy alone at 12. He'd found Thorn buried in rubble, its voice whispering in his mind. "Take me. Live." It had guided him, shaped him, kept him alive when everything else burned. "Long story," he said finally. "Let's just say it picked me." Vin's eyes softened. "You're like us. Survivors." Before he could reply, a figure stepped from the shadows. A tall man in a sleek Stelcorp suit, his face scared and cold. "Impressive," he said, clapping slowly. "I'm Torv, Regional Commander. You've got skill, human. Join us. Name your price." Jace gripped Thorn tighter. "Not for sale." Torv smirked. "Pity. Kill them." More soldiers poured in, and the fight reignited. Jace moved like a storm, Thorn cutting through armor with eerie precision. Kessa roared, taking down two at once. Lyra and Ven held the line, their teamwork seamless. Torv slipped away, but the base was theirs, for now. Back in the desert, panting and bruised, Lyra faced Jace. "You could have taken his deal. Why didn't you?" "Never liked bullies," Jace said, wiping sand from his face. "And I'm not done here." Vine smiled faintly. "Our mother wanted a champion." "You're close, Jace." Kessa nodded grudgingly. "Still not sold on marriage, but you're useful." Jace glanced at the stars, Thorn humming softly. He hadn't signed up for this, but these sisters, their fight, stirred something in him. Purpose, maybe. "Let's keep moving," he said. "They'll be back." The night stretched on, the crystal mines safe for now. But the war was far from over. The dawn broke over Vorin, the twin suns rising in a blaze of gold and red. Jace stood on a dune overlooking the crystal mines, Thorn gripped tightly in his hands. The air was thick with the scent of scorched metal and sand, remnants of the night's battle clinging to his coat. Lyra, Kessa, and Vine stood beside him, their copper skins streaked with dust and sweat. They'd struck a blow against Stelcorp, but the distant rumble of engines told them it wasn't over. The corporation wouldn't let the crystals, or Vorin, go so easily. "They're coming," Kessa said, her voice hard. She wiped her blade clean, eyes scanning the horizon. "Bigger force this time. We can't hold them forever." Van adjusted her shield device, its hum faint but steady. "We've got maybe an hour before they hit. The mines are secure, but they'll bring everything now." Lyra turned to Jace, her silver hair tangled from the fight. "You've done more than we asked, Jace. What's your call?" He looked at the sisters, Lyra's quiet fire, Kessa's raw strength, Vine's sharp mind. They'd fought together, blood together, and somehow, in one wild night, they'd become more than strangers. Thorn pulsed against his palm, its voice whispering in his mind. "Finish it. Show them." Jace nodded slowly. "We don't run. We end this." The plan came fast. Ven mapped the enemy's approach. 3 heavy transports, drones, and a squad of elite soldiers. Kessa suggested a frontal assault, but Jace shook his head. "They expect that. We hit smart, not hard." He pointed to a narrow canyon near the mines. "Funnel them there. I'll take the lead." They moved quickly, setting traps with what they had, fuel canisters from the base, sharpened crystal shards, Vine's shield tech. Jace rigged a tripwire with Thorn's precision, its glowing edge slicing cables into perfect lengths. Kessa watched, grudging respect in her eyes. "You're wasted wandering, human. Been telling myself that, Jace said, half smiling. The enemy arrived in a storm of dust and noise. Transports rolled forward, drones buzzing like angry wasps. Jace stood at the canyon's mouth, staff ready, the sisters hidden behind rocks. The first transport hit the tripwire. Flames erupted, swallowing it whole. Soldiers spilled out, shouting, only to stumble into crystal spikes. Kessa charged from the side, her blade a blur, while Vine's shields deflected drone fire. Jace faced the elites, their armor gleaming with advanced tech. A massive soldier swung a plasma axe, its heat singing the air. Jace ducked, thorn flaring bright. He struck. The staff phased through the axe, splitting it, then carved through the armor like cloth. The soldier fell, and Jace moved to the next, his movements fluid, almost alive with Thorn's guidance. The canyon became a graveyard of twisted metal and broken suits. But then a shadow loomed, a Stelcorp war mech, twice Jace's height, its cannons glowing. Torv's voice crackled from it. "You're stubborn, human. Last chance. Join me." Jace spat sand from his mouth. "Told you. I don't bend." The mech fired, a beam of energy scorching the ground. Jace rolled, thorn blazing in his hands. It wasn't just a staff anymore. Light pulsed along its length, ancient markings glowing. He felt it then, a surge of power he'd never tapped. Thorn's voice roared in his mind. "We're more, always were." He leaped, driving the staff into the mech's chest. Energy erupted, blue and wild, and the machine shattered, Torv tumbling out, defeated. Silence fell, broken only by the wind. The sisters emerged, staring at the wreckage. Kessa laughed, short and sharp. "Stars, you're a monster." Vine knelt by the mech, tracing the staff's glow. "That's no relic. It's human-made, isn't it? Old. Older than us." Jace nodded, catching his breath. "Found it on my colony after it burned. Thorn said it's from a time when humans ruled the stars. Guess we forgot how strong we can be." Lyra stepped closer, her eyes soft but fierce. "You reminded us, Jace. Voron's safe because of you." He shrugged, uneasy with praise. "You fought too. All of you." They stood together, the minds glinting behind them. Lyra spoke again. "The offer stands. Marry us. Me, Kessa, Vine. Be our protector, our family. It's the law, but it's more now." Kessa crossed her arms. "I'd rather punch you than kiss you, but you've earned it." Vine smiled faintly. 3 sisters, 1 champion. "It's not so bad, is it?" Jace looked at them, then at the sky. He'd drifted too long, running from roots. Thorn hummed, warm and steady. Marriage still felt like a cage, but leaving them, that felt worse. "I'm not the marrying kind," he said at last. "But I'll stay. Fight with you. Guard this place. Friends, not husbands." Lyra's face softened. "Friends, then. For now." Kessa smirked. "Good enough." Vine tilted her head. "The stars are big, Jace. Plenty more out there." He grinned, slinging Thorn over his shoulder. "Yeah. Let's see what's next." They turned to the horizon, the sun's climbing higher. Voron was theirs again, its crystals safe, its people unbroken. Jace felt something shift inside him. Purpose, not just survival. The sisters stood with him, a strange, fierce crew, and the galaxy stretched wide ahead. Whatever came, they'd face it together, human and Voron, strength and spirit entwined.